to a lot of people, it was a form of empowering. Besides that, who were the people that brought these people to Nigeria? Most of these people were brought to Nigeria in 2013. They were not even Nigerians. I met two of them who were arrested in my community, whose first language is French. They are Fulani of Niger, of Mali.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast again with me, your host, Ngalim Bernard. We are all the way in Nigeria, where we're discussing the Nigerian security issues related to the United States. Recently, President Trump declared Nigeria a country of particular concern because of the persecution of Christians. And in the course of that advocacy, the Nigerian groups advocating for pressure from the United States to cause change in Nigeria have been on the forefront of the advocacy in the United States. And the government of Nigeria recently spent about $9 million to pay a lobby firm to change the narrative in the United States. On top of that, the president of Nigeria sent his wife to attend the national breakfast prayer session in the United States, and she was recognized by President Trump. So my guest today is going to tell us how far they have gone with the advocacy and if they believe that the advocacy is yielding fruits. So stay tuned as I introduce my guest to you. Barrister Frank Otu, you are welcome to the Beyond Africa podcast.
Thank you so much, my brother Bernard.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I know you're a very busy man. I've been running after you for about 2 weeks, and today you have a series of meetings organized. But let's get this going. You had this meeting, the national breakfast, the national prayer breakfast in Washington D.C. yesterday. You attended that session, and the course of President Trump's speech, he recognized President Tinubu's wife as a woman of prayer, a woman of stature, and somebody who is leading Nigeria towards the right direction. Did that say to you that your advocacy is already limping?
No, listen. I say I don't really understand why a lot of people are trying to make a molehill, a mountain out of a molehill from the event that happened at the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington D.C. at the Hilton Hotel. Look, President Trump on that day just recognized the presence of our First Lady, the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Remi Tinubu, and nothing more. She wasn't even his guest. She was a visitor and a guest like every other guest at the function that day. She never met President Trump at the White House. She attended the National Prayer Breakfast Summit like every other guest, and she was in the crowd. And President Trump recognized her presence because he was told about her presence at that very event. At that very event. And that is why if you watched the video vividly, or you go back again and watch the video, you see that the president is trying to identify who is Remi Tinubu. Where is she seated? So when he called her name rather, I was like, the wife of the president of Nigeria is here. She's a Christian. She's a respected person. Of course, every first lady is respected. You know? So there's nothing more to this. So I was just somehow bamboozled where a lot of people were making a mountain out of that molehill. It was just a simple recognition, which we appreciate. You recognize the wife of our president, her presence, and he threw up some accolades to her. But then, in that same speech, on that same day, President Trump condemned the killing of Christians in Nigeria. Go back and watch the speech. I don't know. And to some extent, sometimes Nigerian media is our problem because they just pick the section, just the little part, some 20 seconds that he attributed, to the Tinubu's wife, by recognizing her presence. But it took more than 1 minute talking about the killing of Christians in Nigeria and talking about how the other time in December, they bombed some ISIS camp and they are going to continue. He talked about straight up the killing of Christians in Nigeria. And what does that mean? Genocide. When he says Muslim radicals are killing Christians, what does that translate to? Genocide. So in that same speech, this was what President Trump said. So I don't understand why people just pick the part. That's Nigerian media, Nigerian government aligned media, pick the part where he was able to, throw up some accolades
Some-
to the wife of our president. And they made it a very big issue to the extent that shamelessly I watched Adams Oshomole today going to congratulate the president for President Tinubu for the fact that President Trump recognized his wife.
Why is it? Why
So
is it
you can
shameless?
say, no, it's quite shameless. It's a normal protocol. So why are you making it so big? It's a
But
normal protocol.
on the other side, they would argue that you have also picked your own elements from President Trump's speech and you're hammering on it.
No, the most important element in that speech is about religious freedom. It's a national prayer breakfast, for goodness sake. So it's all about what we've been advocating. It's about Christianity. It's about the faith of Christianity. It's about prayers. That is what it's called, national prayer breakfast. And he was able to talk about Nigeria, about persecution of Christians all over the world. And unfortunately, out of 10 Christians persecuted in the world, 7 are Nigerians. In Nigeria, not elsewhere, in Nigeria. So we constitute 70% of the victims of persecution, people who are persecuted for their faith across the world.
I have hosted a few people who argue that this is Christian persecution and a genocide, and I've hosted some other person who says this is not a genocide, and he is ready to have an open confrontation or an open conversation with you on this topic. I know you're willing to partake in that conversation, and I will try to make that happen. But it's insisting on the fact that this is a genocide the main pain point, or is it just you want a solution to the security crisis in Nigeria?
Okay, Bernard, anyone, as in anybody, who said what has been happening to us in Nigeria, especially we Christians in the middle belt of Nigeria and many parts of the northeast and northwest, anyone who said it is not genocide, that person is either 1, a coward, 2, a traitor, 3, one who is only trying to be politically correct, 4, mischievous, 5, confused, 6, a combination of all. Anyone who say, first of all, what is genocide? To some extent, the second one is that they may be ignorant. What is genocide? Genocide is defined by Article 2 of the 1946 Convention of the United Nations on the crime and prevention of the crimes of genocide. In that article, it says genocide is killings done with the intent. Now, that's the first element. You are carrying out an act of killing with the intention, with the intent to destroy a group of persons in whole or in part. You are destroying a group of people as in whole. You want to destroy them completely or partly. Who are this group of persons? It says because of their 1, ethnicity, because of their 2, race, because of 3, religion. Okay, so why are these Islamists killing us? First of all, let's establish Nigeria is the country, the number 5 country in the world with the highest number of Islamist terrorist organizations. Why are they in Nigeria? Because they want to Islamize Nigeria. They're fighting for religious sake. The country with the highest number of terrorist organizations in the world is Afghanistan, followed by Pakistan, then Iraq, then Somalia, then Nigeria. So Nigeria is second in Africa to Somalia, the country with the highest number of Islamist terrorist organizations. You have Boko Haram, you have Ansaru, you have Lakurawa, You have ISIS West African province called ISWAP. You have the deadliest, most wicked, most vicious of them all, the Fulani ethnic militia, all in Nigeria. What's their reason? They want to Islamize Nigeria. So what are you saying? So when these people who are telling you directly they want to Islamize Nigeria, and they are carrying out a jihadi, when they kill Christians, what does that mean? That defines genocide.
Uh,
That defines genocide. And
I would I would reserve the details of the conversation for the conversation we are going to have with Dr. Femi, so we can have a contrasting view of the definition of genocide and apply it to this
no,
case.
I
If
don't
you
mind.
don't
I don't
mind,
mind. Of course,
but
like you call the name not just Yoruba. So I'm sorry. I don't stereotype. I don't do. But I feel very disappointed. Because a lot of people just want to be just tribal. For the fact that the president is Yoruba. For goodness' sake, has he ever been to Benue State? Has he ever been to Plateau State? That's the first question I'll ask him. Let him get prepared. Sorry, just a moment, Bernard. Let him get prepared. The time he's going to face us, right? To show us pictures, previous pictures where he's been to the IDP camp, any IDP camp in North Central, we have more than 3 million of our people in the IDP camp. I come from a community that is devastated by this. So anybody who want to counter I come from Yerwata, I'm a prince of Yerwata. My leader was the village of Yerwata, the village head of Yerwata. Yerwata is the community that went into infamy last year with the highest number of people killed anywhere in the world within 4 hours. 4 hours. 278 of my kinsmen were killed within 4 hours from June 13, 9 p.m. to June 14, 1 a.m. within 4 hours. So, so
let's talk about this massacre in a moment. Let's talk about this massacre in a moment. I'll let you talk about it. But what I wanted to ask now is, how do you differentiate? Because you named 7 groups, and 6 of those groups you linked them to Islamism, but the last group was the Fulani Militia. Why would you classify the Fulani Militia as executing a Christian persecution? Because talking about Fulani is talking about a tribe. So why would the Fulani Militia be considered here as executing a genocide? Because you said the genocide is based on extinguishing Christians.
okay, so talking about Fulani, that is one of the mistakes a lot of people make. When we say Fulani ethnic militia, we're saying within the Fulani, this is a group of people who constitute a militia. So it's not stereotyping the whole race. We're not profiling the whole Fulani race. When you say Niger Delta militant, it does not mean that people of the Niger Delta were militant. I hope you get that right. It's a section of people in the Niger Delta who constituted themselves as militant. So it does not mean that you, ordinary you who was coming from River State or Delta State or Akwa Ibom State or Cross River State, is a militant. But there's a section of them who put up themselves that time as such. The likes of Tompolo, the likes of Asari Dokubo. You know what I'm saying? So those are the militants. That is exactly what we have amongst the Fulani race too. There are those of them who are terrorists, who are ethnic militia, and they fall under the auspices of Mayati Allah Kautahori, Mayati Allah, the other Mayati Allah. And look, for us, anytime they come killing us, they tell us that they are carrying out a jihad. Every time they tell us that they are carrying out jihad. And that is why I said the best people to argue this are the victims. So when you don't visit the victim, when you've never been to the devastated communities and you sit in Lagos, or at most some even outside the country and begin to tell us whether there's genocide or not, you are just kidding yourself. You've never visited.
But you will not argue that it's only those who've
No,
been there
you have
to
to be
see
there.
the
Look, no,
victims
you
and
have to be
face
there.
the realities. Would
Bernard,
make an argument, because President Trump has called this a Christian genocide,
okay, do you
but
know
he's
why?
never been
Do you
there.
know why he called it Christian genocide without going there? First and foremost, the people who went there were the
You
ones who
tell us.
told him. Chris Smith was on ground in Nigeria, was in Plateau State. Then the people who testify were the victims. I testify. I was a victim and a survivor. Bishop Anagbe, my Lord Bishop, the Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Makoti, testified. He is a victim and a survivor. His village is on the edge of precipice, Onduna in Gwe West local government of Benue State. Onduna. That's the village of Bishop Anagbe himself. So, and then his his flock, the people of the Catholic bishop of the Catholic diocese of Makoti, most of the people in the refugee camp are his flock. Do you understand? He is the bishop of these people in the refugee camp. Over 1 million people of his own flock. So who can compete with this kind of person? With me, a survivor, with Bishop Anagbe. And then, when President Trump designated Nigeria, he now put up a committee headed by Riley Moore to investigate this and bring the report. What happened? Riley Moore went to Nigeria. He went to Benue State. He met with our people. He met with my cousins. He met with one of my cousin who was killed. He met with the wife, the widow. The guy was killed with 5 of his other children. He met with the widow and the surviving child. So the people coming to make this argument, have they done that? Americans from here have traveled, have laid their boot on the ground in Benue State, in communities where this has happened. Then you see somebody sitting in Lagos who you can only even cite the place of map. Sometimes even when he picks a map, you won't even know where the place is. I'm just giving. It's not the person. It's not
holding brief for them.
It doesn't just apply to that. Sorry, sometimes we know our emotions run high because we're the survivors. So when we see somebody try to spin the narrative, it hurts deeply. Do you understand?
Counsel, I understand how emotional this can be, especially the second part of this conversation where we're going to be talking about your experience. But at the same time, some restraints would help us have a better conversation with the other people who disagree. And that is a particular purpose of this platform, so that we have these reasoned conversations. Because generally, the media is not covering this the way I would like the media to cover it. So the alternative media is here to give the platform to both sides. And I don't know what you think, but this is what I want us to do, so that we can have a reasonable conversation by people who have opposing views. Do you think
it's okay by me? But let me just tell you, anybody who has opposing view here is just evil, simply evil. I'm telling you the truth. We know what we passed through. Do you understand? We know what we've been passing through the last 12 years. We contend it. Look, in the last 12 years, personally, my own community, we've lost more than 600 people in the last 12 years, right? In that attack of June 13 last year, I lost 34 members of my family. Okay, these guys came from beginning to end. They were chanting this most popular slogan of Islamist jihadists all over the world. Allahu Akbar as they're killing. Allahu Akbar throughout the night from beginning to end. That is a slogan and a motto that is recognized globally as the slogan and motto of terrorists. Unfortunately, it has a separate meaning in Arabic, which is God is great. But then, unfortunately, the terrorists, global terrorists, have used that as their official slogan and as their official, that's global Islamist terrorists, and as their official motto. Do you know that in Christianity, there's an equivalence of that slogan? But in Christianity, anybody who shouts it now will be welcomed with cheers and joy. Because the equivalence of Allah Akbar in Arabic is Allah is great. In Christianity, there is an equivalent of that, which is the Lord is good. You see people shout all the time, and all the time, the Lord is good. But I assure you, go to a park, you are in a park, and you see somebody with jalabia and holding a bag, and he comes around and shout Allah Akbar and start running. You take off too. You take off. But if you are in a park and somebody comes with a bag and shout, the Lord is good, nobody will take off. Rather, you stay and smile and laugh and say all the time. Do you understand? So that is the slogan they use every time they come to kill our people. And they've been telling us, look, I've met on more than 4 times, I think about 6 times between 2020 and 2022. I was able to come face to face with about 6 of our attackers at different times. Face to face with some were arrested. Do you understand? They keep telling us we must leave the land. The land must be Islamized. The whole thing is about takeover. And finally, Bernard, let me tell you something. If there's any question about Christian genocide, if there's any question, that question has been answered just day before yesterday by the governor of Kwara State. The governor of Kwara State said the jihadists who came to kill the people in Kwara State did that because the people refused to adopt their extremist ideology of Islam. I want to believe you heard the governor of Kwara State say so. He said so day before yesterday over the killings of over 100 and more than 100 people in Woro community in Kwara local government, Kayama local government of Kwara State. So
just to be clear, you're saying that there were not killings of Christians 2 days ago in Kwara State or 3 days ago?
there are killings of both Christians and Muslims in Kwara State. Just 3 days ago, I'm surprised you don't know about it. The biggest number of people in the last 1 week in Nigeria killed at a spot was in Kwara State. Over 175 people killed in a community called Woro community in Kayama local government of Kwara State. To the extent that the governor of Kwara State visited the president, I think, the day before yesterday. So 3 days ago, the governor of Kwara State gave the reasons why the Islamist jihadist killed his people. Mind you, the governor of Kwara State is a Muslim. He said they killed the people, the Muslims there, because they came to preach a different Muslim ideology, Islamic ideology to the people, and the people refused to accept that ideology. And that is why they came and killed them. Now, these people have killed Muslims for refusing their own ideology of Islam. So these same people, when they kill Christians, what happened? Is it not about because of religion? So does that not transmit to genocide now? So what are we saying? They kill fellow Muslim. They kill fellow Muslim. They kill fellow Muslims.
I want us to have this clear, because one of the arguments that I've read from the news and from some international organizations is this cannot be a persecution against Christians or a genocide against Christians because Muslims are equally being killed. And you're saying that these Muslims are also being killed because they are refusing a certain type of Islam. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. That is the first stage of it. And let me tell you, it is only someone who is ignorant of world history that will say because Muslims are also killed and so it doesn't translate to genocide. No, that sounds very preposterous. In all cases of genocide in the world, the people of the tribe or race of the people perpetrating the genocide are also victims. When ISIS, at the height of ISIS carnage in the Levant, that's in Syria and Iraq, many of them, as they are killing Christians, destroying churches, destroying churches of over 1,000 years and all this, they were killing Muslims and Muslims more in number because it's a society that has more of Muslims, that's Iraq and Syria. But yet it was called genocide of Christians. You know, when the Hutus, one of the most popular genocide in history, in 1994 in Rwanda, when the Hutus were killing Tutsis, were they not killing moderate Hutus? They were killing moderate Hutus. If you have a doubt, watch the Hotel Rwanda, a movie that was a movie that depicted exactly what happened during that period. They were killing Tutsis basically, but they were killing moderate Hutus. So it's a preposterous argument to say because they were killing Muslims and so it doesn't amount to genocide. No. Well, and basically, look, that is a mistake a lot of people are making. We're not saying Muslims are killing us. We are saying Islamic radicals are killing us. A section of the Muslim community, which no one can argue about that. Now, we have a section of Muslim community that are terrorists in Nigeria today. Boko Haram, are they no Muslims? So, but not everybody professes to Boko Haram. ISWAP in Nigeria, are they no Muslims? Ankurawa, Ansaru, Lakurawa, the other one called IJMB, Islama, Jamaat, Muslimi, something. Are they no Muslim? Fulani Militia. And again, what a lot of people need to understand is that Fulani Militia, who they are killing in the Northwest particularly, are the Hausas. Are the Hausas who they've always disagreed with. And then the Hausa Christians. of Katsina and Kebbi. They are the Hausa. So the Hausa are not complaining, because the truth of the matter is that the Hausa are also suffering genocide. Because genocide is not just about religion, it's also about ethnicity. So the people they kill in the northwest are basically the Hausas, not Fulanis. And many of these Hausa is because they disagree with them. And that is why sometimes in one or two cases they shot many of them in the mosque. A lot of these people, they complain of this Fulani who killed is because is premised on the fact that these guys constituted a vigilante arm in the village, and so they kill one of their guys. Do you understand? And that is why sometimes they carry out those attacks to kill those people. To kill those people. But they don't, but that is not the case with us. They come to kill us because of who we are.
So if they are killing the Hausas also, who are largely Muslims, and killing the Christians within the Middle Belt and other parts of Nigeria, why are you framing it as a Christian genocide? Because the Muslims are also being targeted for being, for the Hausas who are Muslims are also being targeted for being who they are.
That is why listen, genocide, there are different dimensions to it. I gave you the meaning of genocide here according to the law that established it. You know, the United Nations Convention on the prevention and crime, on the prevention of the crime of and punishment of the crime of genocide. I gave it the definition. That it says genocide is mass killings carried out with the intent to destroy a group of people in whole or in part because of their one ethnicity. So Hausa fall under that genocide of ethnicity. But Hausa from right from time they don't talk. They've been oppressed by the Fulanis for so long. Right from the jihad of 1804. The Hausas have been practicing Islam before Ottoman Danfodio staged his jihad. So you could see that the reason why Ottoman Danfodio, the Fulani, the progenitor of the Fulani today in Nigeria, staged his jihad is a different motive, different radical motive. Do you understand? Because the Hausas were practicing Islam. And then you came to say you are staging a jihad, a Muslim, an Islamic jihad to conquer the land and convert them to Muslims. And he staged the jihad all the way to Kanem Borno Empire. That's current Borno and Yobe, which has been practicing Islam for years before he even came to his family came to Nigeria from Futajalo in Guinea, current day Guinea. So you could see that their motive is always different. So they've been always against Hausa. Look, the Hausa have all these states in the core north, but the Fulanis are the governors, and the Hausa have more of the population. But the Fulanis are all the emirs, or anywhere you hear emir, that's the Fulani. The Fulani goes to the Sultan and the emir. And then the Hausa have the Fulani have all the governors, meanwhile in Hausa state. So the Hausas have been oppressed, they've come to live with it. But it's not everybody that is as tolerant as the Hausas. Do you understand? So they have, if not, the Hausas, a lot of them, if you're on social media, a lot of them are started coming up to say, look, they are also complaining that genocide has been carried out against them. Because genocide is not only on the front of religion, it also pertains race and pertains ethnicity. So in truth, the Hausa have been suffering ethnic genocide for so long. So, but when applied to us, it's a religious genocide.
Okay. Just to indicate that I interviewed Mike Arnold on this platform, and he has written a book called Epicenter, in which he details the history of the jihads in Nigeria from the time of Udman Danfodio till today. And that could be an interesting read for those who want to see it. So I know you mentioned that you've come face to face with some of these attackers. And the question somebody should be asking is, if they really wanted to eliminate most Christians, why would they let you go up to 6 times? But then the other question I want to ask is, how did this experience of you seeing your family members killed by the attackers shape your advocacy? Are you so intensely involved in this advocacy because of that experience?
Okay, first of all, why would they let me go? Maybe you don't understand how I came face to face with them. We apprehended them. You know. So my community is not every time that my community take the hit. You know, on many occasions we repel them. we arrested them and we neutralized some. Because sometimes the soldiers that were dispatched to my community, they joined with our youth in the form of like a joint civilian military task force to fight off these guys anytime they come attacking. So on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, look, I was in government in Benin State. I was a principal special assistant to the governor of Benin State between 2020 and 2023. And everybody knows the governor of Benin State that time was very vehemently loud against this Islamist genocide in Benue State. That's Governor Samuel Otom. So I was his principal special assistant, and am from the same local government with him, Guma, which is one of the worst hit local government. And my own village is one of the worst hit anywhere in Nigeria because we are placed at the border between Benue and Nasarawa State. From my village to the border between Benue and Nasarawa is just 2 kilometers. So, and these guys are found Nasarawa State as a sanctuary. They always take their refuge in Nasarawa State. So it's from Nasarawa State that they do come out to hit us. So between 2020 and 2023, I was in Makodi, and I was like the face of my village and the voice of my village, and I was involved in it directly. As in directly. Anytime attack takes place in my village, I've always been the first person to be in the village within, because Makodi to my village is Yerwata. It's just 25 minutes drive. We are placed on the federal highway. So it's not the kind of village that, okay, you start going into an unmotorable road. No, it's on the federal highway. It's just 48 kilometers from Okoti. So anytime they come, I've always been the first person to, because even the soldiers and the police in the village do send for me first and foremost. So I've always go. So on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, some were shot and arrested alive. And we got their confessions. On 1, 2, 3, 4 times, we know how many of them were taken to the police headquarters in Makodi. And the next day, we got a report that a high-powered call was made from some of these Fulani governors in the Northwest or the Buhari presidency, and they were released. These were things we'll be facing. They were released on several occasions. These guys were arrested because they will come for operation. It's not all operation from these guys that were successful. They will come and sometimes they will, of course, kill 1, 2, 3. But then they too will also record casualties. So sometimes we get some of those guys with gunshot wounds. And then they talk. They talk. So this whole thing, so people make it look as if it's a spirit thing. No, it's a physical thing. And we'll be engaging ourselves, we'll be talking to ourselves. So that is why I say, look, when you want to talk about this, some of us are the final authority in this because we've seen it all. We've seen, there's nothing we've not seen. Then to the second question you ask, whether it's because it affected me directly the last time. Listen, Bernard, I've been involved in this. I was one of the lawyers in 2006. That's 10 years ago. 2006. That we went to the ECOWAS court in Abuja over these killings. And in the ECOWAS court, we call it genocide. That is one thing I want to say. Do you know that we Nigerians have been calling this genocide for so long? But the government has not been saying anything until when the international community called it genocide. We've been calling it genocide. We did not call it anything. We've been calling it for the past 10 years because that's exactly what's been happening. But because we have a government in Nigeria that does not care for our people, that does not even take us serious, they don't care about it. So in 2016, we took this matter to court under the auspices called Movement Against Fulani Occupation in Benue State, MAFO, MAFO, movement headed by the late Pastor Edward Doga, a chief guy from Okun local government, and Reverend Father Solomon Mfa, who is alive up to this day and one of the very big advocates against this genocide. So we took that matter to the ECOWAS court and we called it genocide. In 2017, I was in Abuja, I was living in Abuja at that time, so we formed a group called VATIM. VATIM is VATIM. It stands for Vanguard Against Thief Massacre. So when you're massacring thief because of who they are, because of their tribe, because of their religion, what does that mean? That's genocide. As far back as 2017, we call it VATIM, Vanguard Against Thief Massacre. We took we staged one of the biggest protests in Abuja, from the Unity Fountain to the National Assembly. And the National Assembly was on a standstill that day because of our protest. A month later, we were invited to appear before the House of Representative Committee on Police Affairs. We made presentation for 2 days. And during those presentations, we were calling it genocide. This is 2017. 2017, I was a principal head of all these things that I'm telling you right now. So my fight on this doesn't start today. In 2018, we made presentations before the Benue State House of Assembly when Benue State was to enact a law against open grazing, because those guys were always using the excuses of grazing to commit this. So to commit these heinous crimes of genocide. So Benue State government, the people of Benue State say, okay, since these guys are always using the excuses of grazing and thereby calling it farmer header crisis. In our online, you're coming to kill us and you're saying farmer header crisis, So Benue State government now, Benue people rather, agreed to set up a law to regulate open grazing of cattle, so that when you have a cattle line, you're coming to Benue, confine those cattle to a ranch in line with modern animal husbandry. You are in United States, you know why it is. You confine them to a ranch. That is how it should be. But these people in our own state, we enacted this law. It's the law in my entire life. I've not seen a law that has been agreed by the people of a state like the way Benue State came together around that law of open grazing prohibition. So we gave ourselves that law. But what did they do? 1st January, that was in November 2017. 1st January 2018 and 2nd January 2018, they came to my local government of Guma and killed over 70 people and killed over 15 other people in the neighboring local government of Logo, that former Governor Suswan's local government, Logo. And that was the month that Benue State carried out mass burial. It's all over on the internet. You must have watched that too. In January of 2018, they carried out mass burial. You could, on the internet, you still see the low bed trolley trailer with coffins. Coffins.
Mhm.
That was the mass burial in Makodi. People of my local government were killed, over 70, and 15 others in local government. And what happened during the mass burial? On the official program, it says mass burial of the victims of Fulani genocide. As far back as 2018, we're calling it genocide. Do you understand? If you go to the cemetery where they were buried in Makodi right now, on the signboard which was erected in January 2018, the signboard carries the site of the burial of the victims of Fulani genocide who were
So,
killed on January 1st and 2nd. So we've been calling it this. So why are you guys not shouting now? Because Donald Trump called it what we'll be calling it?
so by then it was already being termed a genocide.
Yes.
Why was the international media and the international organizations at the time, even till today, not calling it genocide? Why are they still calling it farmer header crisis or banditry and criminality around Nigeria?
Okay, my brother. Like, there's a popular saying in America here that no Jews, no news. Because the people killing us are not Jews. Just imagine, just flip it. Just say it was Jews now that were perpetrating that in America, in the middle belt of Nigeria. Do you understand? No, let's think. Just say it is Jews. It is Jews who are carrying out these killings in the middle belt of Nigeria, in Benue, and see what the world will call it. So the world is just so weird. It's so weird and so wired against some certain people. So we are face to face with people who are so good in propaganda. Look, the Fulanis are so good in propaganda. They are so good in strategy. They strategize themselves in Nigeria. They are the ones who are in the military, in the political class, in the business class. They've saturated everywhere. It's a good strategy. And so this jihad is going on. And then they cover up the media. Okay, look at the first time. DCI lobby group in America has been paid $9 million, the highest they've ever gotten from anywhere in the world. Anywhere the DCI 9 million for what? Just to spin the narrative the other side. Only. So you could see that we are fighting against powerful forces. Look, I have so many friends in the media, Channels Television, Arise Television, um, AIT, many of these in Nigeria. Many of them told me directly that, look, they asked them particularly not to feature some of us. They gave them names because we continue to hammer on the truth of what is happening. So they always sponsor people to appear, to spin the narrative. So that's the foot. It's just like Al Jazeera. It's just like the Arabs. You know that they've sponsored so many people. You know, Al Jazeera sponsored documentaries, sponsor different people. The Arabs, even in America, they offer scholarship. They sponsor a lot of programs in universities, give grants to many of these universities, so that they will hold a narrative against the Jews, principally to hold a narrative against the Jews. That is exactly what is happening to us. So those guys are so strategic. They are so strategic. So they confuse everybody until you
But
open your eyes.
there is also international media and international organizations that could be reporting on the other side of the aisles. Why are you focusing on where the Nigerian government or Nigerian politicians could have an influence, and that is local media?
But you see, the Nigerian government even control many of these foreign media who come to Nigeria. I will tell you this as a fact. Do you understand? I know how much money has always been pumped to these guys. How much they always try to twist their stories. You know, and of course, you know that the foreign media is not immune from corruption. That's the truth. You know that you are in the media, so you know that they are not immune from being compromised. You know, that is number one. Then number two is the fact that it is an outright isolationism. They try to isolate us completely. We seem to come from a forgotten corner of the world. So they try to isolate us. If not, Bernard, my brother, look, can you tell me any country in the world where the killing of Christians is taking place more than Nigeria? So why should Nigeria not be a news item? Just tell me any country that you feel over the 205 countries we have in the world.
Are you saying
Mention,
that Nigeria should be on the news because Christians are being killed or because human beings are being killed?
look, look, Christians basically, first and foremost. Christians basically, because we don't have a Christian terrorist group. If we have a Christian terrorist group, and then on the other side, let me tell you something. I try because I'm a lawyer by profession. I try to put two sides to everything. Let me just paint a graphic picture now. A picture. Imagine if what is happening is being carried out by Christians. Let's imagine this that is being carried out by Christians. That they are emerged from Imo State or from Anambra State, which are Christian states, a group called Eastern Security Network. And these guys are going to Sokoto villages, which are Muslim villages, Sokoto or Katsina villages, which are Muslim villages, and killing people in the name of Christianity. And then in every of their kill, they will always shout, Hallelujah, Hallelujah, or in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, which is like Allah Akbar. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, why they killed. So this day they'll say, oh, this Shagari village in Sokoto, Eastern Security Network have killed 100 people. This one, a thief militia from Benue State have killed so people. What do you think those guys will say? And that, look, do you know that the equivalent of the Sunday worship, Sunday service in a church is that Jumat prayer on Friday by Muslims? But do you know that Christian churches have been attacked more than 10,000 during church worship on Sundays? Recently, some were even captured live. On Sundays, worship. Just imagine that it's a Christian group, Eastern Security Network, that is made of Igbos, or a thief militia going into Muslim villages and killing people during Jumat prayers on Friday. And then another picture, the killings that they be carrying out on Christmas and on Easter in Nigeria. Just imagine that Muslim went for Eid during any of the Eid Kabir, Eid Malud, Eid, they go to the Eid ground. They went to the Eid ground, then an Igbo militia ethnic group emerged, or thief militia ethnic group, which is dominantly Christian, came, killing them, and then uttering in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ as they killed them. Why are you guys trying to make us fools now? Just imagine, just flip the story. When you flip the story,
It's
you give
it's difficult.
yourself the answer.
I understand where you're coming from, but it's difficult to work on hypotheticals, especially
No,
in such a situation.
no, it's not difficult. Flip it. When you flip it, because they say what is good for the goose is good for the gander, isn't it? So
But
flip it. But listen, it's not even hypothesis because there are a lot of instances I can paint. The killing of these 11 hunters in Edo State. What happened? Alleged hunters, because of course they were found rifles, but you call them hunters, and then they were killed by those Auchi youths in Edo State. What happened? What happened? All the groups in the north, they rose up. They press conferences after press conference. All the governors, to the extent that the governor of Edo State, Monday Okpebolo, had to travel to Kano to go and beg because 11 people, and they were having rifles, were killed. So, but you
so
call them alleged
how did
hunters.
the media treat that?
Sorry?
How did the media, both domestic and international, treat that story of the 11?
No, I don't know anything about international media, but on the local media, what we observe, what I've watched was was a backlash that was coming out of it. Was a backlash that was coming out of it, and it generated. Look, it became a sensation more than the killing in even my village of 270 something people. That is the truth. You watch and you know what I'm saying. Just because this 11 and this 11 were not that way. They were not without anything. They were having arms, but they say that they were hunters.
All right, let's be rounding off. President Trump has ordered strikes in Nigeria. Recently, Reuters reported that there are American foot soldiers in Nigeria. Are those exactly what you were looking for in your advocacy in the United States?
Okay, our advocacy is centered on putting end to these killings and let our people return back to their ancestral land. Our people are there to become. You see, as I speak to you, my direct siblings are in the IDP camp. I see my siblings, the same parent, are in the IDP camp. And I always like using my last sibling. My last sibling is just 3 years old. My dad died in 2023. So my dad died when the guy was barely 3 months old. Because my dad was young. He just suddenly just had heart attack and died. 3 years old. 3 years ago in 2023 May. So
May his soul rest in peace.
amen. So that time his youngest child was just 3 months old. That youngest child, as we speak, is 3 years now. He's in the IDP camp in Mokodi. My sister is in the IDP camp. My sister gave birth in the IDP camp in August. My own sister, the same surname with me. My father's 2 wives are in the IDP camp because my father was polygamous. So 2 of my stepmothers are in the IDP camp. So why are they in the IDP camp? We have our ancestral land. But the jihadists are insisting they want to take over. Do you understand? And so any moment you go back, they kill you. That is why people are in the IDP camp. So our advocacy is centered on, look, we want to stay safe in our land, practice our religion, carry out our legitimate businesses, and live in peace. So why is it that we are calling for peace and it's too big for others? Just peace. We're asking for simply to live in peace in our land. That's our advocacy. So it does not matter how America will do it, as long as we achieve peace. That is what matters to us. If they want to collaborate with the government in fighting this insurgency through the best way they could, good and fine for us. Good and fine. So we are calling for, and the last thing we are calling for is accountability. Because these Almajiris, these people who come to kill our people, are people who, when you see them on the road, they hold plastic bowl, they look very dirty. They'll be asking for 15 naira from you. So they don't have that money to buy the AK-47. AK-47 in the Nigerian market goes for about 3.5 million naira. And then they'll come to our community welding over 100 AK-47. So there are their sponsors. Those sponsors we really want not just the foot soldiers, but the sponsors are financiers to be brought to book. Let there be accountability. Martin Luther King Jr. said, peace is not merely the absence of crisis, but the presence of justice. So that is exactly what we're calling for. We want justice and we want peace. So that is what we centered our advocacy for. And a lot of people always say, yeah, I've gone, I've taken this whole thing personal. Of course, I need to take it personal. Because you also put up a question that seems to connect with what I'm trying to say. Look, I've given you my history in this fight, going back to over 12 years. But why I've taken this differently is because of the dynamics. The attack, the killing in my village last year was extremely out of this world. And so, like I keep mentioning these instances that, look, do you know that before 9/11 attack in America, Al-Qaeda had been killing Americans even long before that time. Al-Qaeda bombed American embassy in Nairobi in 1996. They killed Americans. But the fight against Al-Qaeda was not at the level it was after 9/11. Because 9/11, Al-Qaeda took a different measure. Sheer audacity. They came into American territory and carried out that attack. The highest number of Americans killed in an attack after the Pearl Harbor attack of 1941. So, and that is why George Bush took the fight to the terrorists. Also in Israel, do you know Hamas have always been killing Israelis? Always, at all times in the last 15 years. But why this particular war against Hamas was different was because of the audacity that Hamas exhibited on October 7th, 2023. And the number of Israelis killed, that was the highest number of Jews killed after the Holocaust. That was exactly what applied to us too. They'll be killing us. See, 2 weeks before the attack of June 13, they killed my late father's closest friend in the village. On May 28th, they came to that same Yorota. They killed 5 people. Ulam, that's my late father's closest friend. His name is a retired army corporal. They killed him and his son, who was sleeping that night, just around 9 p.m. And then 3 of his nephews. That's 2 weeks before. But you see, because we lived with it, so these killings will come, we'll just take it as a way of life. We'll just lament that night. Oh, Fulani have come again. Oh, we bury them the following day. But this particular one of June 13, within one night, you've come to obliterate the lives of over 278. My brother, it's not going to be the same. Never. And that is why our advocacy is on overdrive.
I talked to a lot of you, and you spend most of your time in DC now, and that means you're talking to policymakers and decision makers. And do you see any hope that your objectives and peace are going to return anytime soon?
Yeah, we see hope from the position of the guys we've been talking to in the United States. We see hope because they are very committed. But we're a little bit disillusioned with the approach of the Nigerian government because we know that many of these guys who are sponsors of this are involved in government. Some are governors, traditional class, from the emirate to even all the way to the caliphate, and some are even within the government of Tinubu. So that is where the problem is, and that is why, listen, even as America is involved right now, America 3 days ago took some arms to Kainji. They deploy it is from Oklahoma here, from the Tinker Air Force Base, that the Globemaster 3, that the big the big Air Force plane took off from Tinker Air Force Base here, not too far away from me in Oklahoma. They took these arms to Nigeria. But the most important thing is how Nigerians, the will, whether Nigeria have the will to really execute it. For me, I feel up to this moment, the will is not there, and let me tell you why. They are showing the international community that they are fighting terrorism. So what they did is that they are just putting up a smoke screen by concentrating their energies where the entire world has known before now. The entire world before now has known about Boko Haram. Boko Haram. So they want to spin the narrative to be as if Boko Haram is the Islamists carrying out all these killings that America and the international community are complaining. But the people who are killing 10 times more than Boko Haram are the Fulani Militia. So Nigerian government now have increased the fight against Boko Haram in the northeast. And every time they neutralize Boko Haram elements in the northeast, they'll parade the bodies and be showing everybody in Nigeria and the international community of their efforts, their fight against terrorism. Meanwhile, no single Fulani terrorist have been brought down in the Middle Belt. No single. So if you see what's happening, they're just selling a dummy to the world, concentrating their fight on where the world has known before now. Borno, Yobe, Boko Haram. Leaving out, have you ever seen the display bodies of Fulani elements? As I speak to you right now, this night, 3 hours ago, Kwande local government in Benue State has been attacked and about 7 people were killed just 4 hours ago, as I speak to you. 4 hours
So
ago.
when you talk to the policymakers in DC, who are, I don't know if they are the military deciders also, do you make clear that these are the areas you find troublesome and that is where they should be focusing their attention to?
Yes, that is exactly what we've been selling to them. And if you listen to the interview of Chris Meade today, chairman of the House of Rep Congressional Subcommittee on Africa, is our best friend. Chris Meade today he appeared on Tony Perkins' show, and he was able to talk about this, how they were trying to change the narrative, focusing elsewhere, but the most dangerous group is the Fulani Militia. He spoke about it, and he spoke about the $9 million contract with the DCI group. And then he spoke about Tinubu's wife's presence here too. So you could see that they did not buy all these things. They did not buy. He said, "You have to watch the interview. I'll send the link to you. You have to watch the
Please do.
interview." Yeah, I'll send it. I posted it just about an hour ago on my Facebook. You know, you have to watch the interview, and you could see that the host, Tony Perkins, also said the DCI lobby group made an effort. They contacted him so that they'll be able to feature Tinubu's wife on his show. And then in his language, he say he doesn't want to legitimize the genocide of Christians in Nigeria by giving the government audience. He doesn't want to legitimize that, so that he deliberately refused. So you could see a man of conscience and a man of principle. I will send the link to you.
Please do. I would attach it at the end of this video for those who have not watched it to be able to watch it.
In short, while we speak, I'll do that.
All right. Thank you. So one last question for you. You've said there are financiers and funders of this, even within the government and in some traditional authorities. Absolutely, that is not defamatory because you're not citing any particular individual. But do you have any evidence to show that there are people in these high-ranking places that are funding these attacks on Christians?
Okay, let me just tell you something. Let me give you instances. When you want to know the sponsors are those who all the while have never condemned this or call for the attack, call for the arrest and prosecution of those who are carrying out this attack. Because they know that when they call for the arrest and prosecution, it will go back to them. So the best they could do is to sell us a dummy by saying, "Oh, they commiserate with the people of Benue State, Plateau State, Southern Kaduna over the killing." That's all. They stop at that. Now, you remember Nasru El-Rufai? You remember when he newly became governor about 10 years ago, and he took up money as a matter of policy from the state coffers to take to an unknown terrorist organization to stop them from killing people in Kaduna. So who are those terrorist organizations? Well, you see, it's a form of empowering those guys, because after that, Kaduna State became the hotbed of killings in Nigeria. to the extent that Kaduna Abuja road became impassable, to the extent that even train was bombed. Train was bombed and it derailed. It has never happened in Nigeria like that. But it was after he paid them. So to a lot of people, it was a form of empowering. Besides that, who were the people that brought these people to Nigeria? Most of these people were brought to Nigeria in 2013. They were not even Nigerians. I met two of them who were arrested in my community, whose first language is French. They are Fulani of Niger, of Mali. Whose first language? They say, you need to see them. Sometimes if you want to identify them, even if they are passing or they are in the car and they get a call, and then they say, hello. Hello is French way of hello. They don't say hello. We say hello. They say hello. Then they'll be talking with French accent. So in 2013 and 2014, they brought them in thousands in preparation for the election of 2015. That Jonathan, whether he likes it or not, must leave office. Kawu Baraje, former acting chairman of APC, said this openly. Kawu Baraje, I think, is a Fulani guy, is a Muslim anyway. I don't know if he's Fulani, from Kwara State. He confessed, he said, they brought these people in preparation for the election of 2015 against Jonathan. And that is why Jonathan, who has all intel on his fingertips, was able to tell Nigerians that, look, his ambition is not worth the blood of any Nigerian. Because he knew what happened. They brought these guys, they saturated the forest of Nasarawa State, Kaduna State, Katsina State, and Zamfara State with these people. Those were the forests. And it is these people from the forest of Nasarawa State that are now killing people in Benue and Plateau. These are the states that sandwich Nasarawa State. Benue and Plateau and Southern Kaduna. Do you understand? And that is why, because these people brought these people, that is why it is difficult to arrest and prosecute and jail these people. That was the reason why in 2022, a jailbreak in Abuja, in the heart of Nigerian federal capital, Kuje maximum security prison. A jailbreak happened not in midnight, around 8 p.m., where Fulani terrorists came on bike, over 300 bikes in Abuja. In Abuja, struck Kuje prison and released over 100 of their fighters. And they went back into the bush, no single arrest. Just put the scenario, take it to the United States, that in Washington, D.C., Al-Qaeda elements emerged and went to a prison in Washington, D.C., bombed it. They came on bike, not even through supernatural means, on bike, motorbike. Yeah? When they bombed it, released over 100 Al-Qaeda and disappeared. And then 2 days later, those guys who were released from the prison were showing their faces in the bush with kidnappers, with kidnapped victims, abductees, in the bush. Are you not a Nigerian? Was that not what happened in 2022?
So here you've spoken about President Goodluck Jonathan, and you've spoken about the Buhari presidency, and you've mentioned President Tinubu. In January 2027, Nigeria is organizing presidential elections. Could that be an avenue to resolve this?
Of course. Listen, in the United States Declaration of Independence, in Article 2, in paragraph 2, it says, we hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that government is instituted amongst men to protect these rights. And that whenever any government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish that government. That is the truth of the matter. Section 14 sub 2 paragraph B of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria says the security and welfare of the people is the primary purpose of government. So it agrees with the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. So if government cannot secure you, If government cannot secure, which is the primary purpose, look, building of bridges, building of third mainland bridge or coastal road is a primary responsibility. It's a secondary responsibility of government. The primary is the security of the people. That is why we surrendered our right of protection to government. You know, the Thomas Hobbes, the Hobbesian rule, you know. So that is why we surrendered our, so that government should protect us. So when government fell, it is the right of the people to alter it. Now the government has between now and 2027 to be able to correct that, to show Nigeria that they are there to protect Nigeria. And not just in theory, in real practical sense. But if the government fell, it is the right of the people to alter the government and get in its place a government that will care and protect the people. So that is what I believe. So the government right now existing in Nigeria have between now and then to be able to prove to Nigerians that they are there to protect the people. But when the government fell in that responsibility of protection, it is the right of the people now to see that they alter the government and put in its place a government that will protect them. So you see, it's not.
So what are you saying about the elections of 2027 January? That the new government, that a possibly new government cannot resolve this problem, or that you are going to advocate for a
No,
government that can
look,
resolve this problem?
Tinubu's government have between now and then to resolve the problem. But I'm telling that if Tinubu's government doesn't resolve the problem, then no need of continuing with the Tinubu's government. That is what I'm saying. And I'm saying it openly. Even though I sympathize with him and a lot of the people that I know in his government. But of course, that's selfishness. That's just one-on-one. You know? But I'm talking objectively now. I'm talking of the reality of what is on ground now. It is not because, oh, I have a personal liking for him or one or two people around his government that then I have to sacrifice my life. In the killings in my village of June 13, 2025, his agent in that election was killed. His agent in the February election of 2023, my cousin Nsuteze, was his agent of Tinubu and Governor Alia the following month, March. But he was killed. So did he benefit from anything in APC now? Or in the Tinubu's government? But he was killed. He was killed in the most gruesome way. His agent. So what do you say that? So that is why the law says security is the primary purpose. So if a person is not secure, what benefit will life be? Now his agent was gone. Which example is better than this? That the guy say, "Oh, Tinubu is the best guy to govern Nigeria." The guy, I was there. That's my polling booth, my village. I was there, and that time I was in the PDP. I was a PSA in the government of Oton. But my village, because of course I'm a grassroots politician, my village, I listen to my people. My village said they have a problem with Oton, that he did not protect them enough. He's only talking so loud against these Fulani killings without taking practical action. So they want a government that will protect them. Before my presence, they voted to, when I was in PDP, I was in PDP at that moment, in the government of Oton. So in politics, they'll say Frank has lost his polling unit. It has never happened with me like that. But at that time, it happened because the people felt that Tinubu is going to protect them. But what happened? The agent, my cousin, who that day decided to even change face, let me use the Nigerian parlance for me. Eh? He changed face, not turning his face so that his elder brother should not engage him. That's me. What happened? But he was killed last. So you could see how sad it is. That despite all this, that government he helped to put in place did not protect him. He has succeeded to play his own role in the social contract responsibility by playing out his civic duty of voting in the government.
So what are you planning? What are you
I
planning
have
for
no
the
plan, bro.
elections?
Look, I have no plan. My
January
plan for the
2027.
elections and for anything now is who is going to secure our people? Who is returning our people back to their ancestral land? Because what plan will I have when my own siblings are in the IDP camp and their land is left desolate? They are why should they be in the IDP camp? In their land, in their land. And it's even a shame that some people in Benue, some people in Taraba, some people in Nasarawa are going to Cameroon as refugees because of these killings. Nigeria, can you imagine that United States people from United States are trooping to Cuba, to Honduras, to El Salvador as refugees? No,
My
no,
Cameroonian
but
people will not be
but
happy with you.
but that's the truth. That's the truth. Cameroon look up to Nigeria as a big brother, right? Just like the countries I call right now, look, look up to the United
Unquestionable.
States as big brother. Do you understand? Look, in every continent of the world, the most populated country is always the leader of that continent and an example for other countries in that continent, but not in Africa. In the European Union, Germany is the biggest, most populated country in the European Union. It's been looked up by everybody in Europe as the leader in every aspect. In Asia, China is the most populated. Everybody look up to China. In North America, United States is the most populated. Everybody look up to United States. In South America, Brazil is the most populated. Brazil is the leader, the general leader in South America. But come to Africa. Come to Africa for goodness sake. Nigeria, the most populated. But Nigeria are running into Cameroon, into Niger for refuge.
Barrister Franco, too, I don't think I've had an exact answer to the question about the elections that are coming up, and I hope we can set up another conversation to discuss about that, because I think elections are a time when we can effect change and meaningful change, and we can discuss the dynamics around elections in Nigeria. You've already highlighted a few issues that you think could be troublesome about elections in Nigeria, but let's have that conversation. And I will also try to bring Dr. Femi Owolade so that we can have that conversation around the definition of genocide in this issue. And I've taken so much of your time. And yeah, do you have any last word for our viewers?
Well, it's last word for every one of us. We pray for peace. We pray for love, unity. It's the absence of love that brings all these things. There's so much hatred in the land. So we pray for peace. We pray for love, and I pray that my people will go back. All the Christian communities that were left desolate, that were destroyed across the plateau, across Nasarawa, Taraba, Benue, Southern Kaduna, and many other places, and even the Muslim communities, the innocent Muslims who have been targeted and been killed. I pray that our land is healed and the people are back to their ancestral lands, and the perpetrators of these very heinous crimes and their sponsors and financiers are really held to account for their evil.
Thank you so much, Barrister Franco, too, for coming to the Beyond Africa podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this other edition of the Beyond Africa podcast. As usual, we bring you the experts to break down the stories for you to understand. Stories that you may not hear on mainstream media, we bring them here so that everyone has space and everyone has an opportunity to understand the details or the nuances of what is happening on the African continent. It is our continent. We should tell the stories and we should strive to change the continent for the better. We can do it, and only we can do it. Thank you, and see you in the next episode of the Beyond Africa podcast.